Incredible transformation. Single dad janitor saves CEO from ambush. Discover what happens next. The echo of Dave's mop swishing across the polished floors in Nathan's glass office reverberated through the quiet, empty building. Moments like this were rare, emerging from shadows of the towering corporate skyscrapers outside. Each stroke of his mop felt more purposeful tonight as his mind flickered to the modest apartment where his bright-eyed daughter, Mia, awaited his return. Every dollar he earned as a janitor was another chapter written in Mia's story, a story he desperately wanted to be filled with more than the confines of their current life. Then, as he paused to catch his breath, a flickering shadow caught his eye. In the dimly lit parking garage, something felt off. A twinge of unease flashed through him. Should he ignore it? What if it was simply a trick of the light? But that adrenaline and electric pull to investigate stirred within him. Just as he began to edge toward the shadows, Nathan emerged, his polished shoes echoing like a death knell against the pavement. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Out of nowhere, masked attackers surged forward, weapons drawn and intent on their target. Time slowed, each moment stretching painfully as Dave's mind raced, caught in a whirlpool of instinct and fear. The image of Mia's beaming face flashed through his mind. Could he let them hurt Nathan? Could he live with himself knowing he stood by? An impulsive courage ignited within him. With a fierce determination fueled by the love of his daughter, Dave charged into the scene. It was not an ordinary janitor facing down experienced thugs without any thought of personal safety. His heart hammered in his chest as he swung a mop like a sword, adrenaline coursing through him as the confused would-be attacker stumbled away from Nathan. The aftermath thrust him into the spotlight. Nathan, now safe, erupted into words of gratitude that reverberated in Dave's mind. An unlikely friendship flourished from their chaotic encounter, born from late-night conversations that explored dreams and the bitter realities of poverty. Yet, with each shared insight, the divide between their worlds widened. As Dave began navigating this newfound camaraderie, Nathan's high-powered colleagues eyed him with disdain, some veiled in practiced politeness, others dripping with contempt. Why should a janitor have any say in their corporate realm? The ache of judgment settled deep in his chest. Self-doubt tugged at his confidence, pushing him toward an insatiable need to prove he belonged, to lift Mia above their modest beginnings. Just then, the firm was rocked by a scandal, a monster of greed and ambition that devoured the innocent. Nathan turned to Dave, seeking guidance, a lifeline amidst crumbling walls of corporate propriety. Dave felt the weight of two worlds colliding, uncertainty mingling with ambition. How could he navigate the minefield without losing sight of his values? Questions consumed him as guilt knotted his stomach. None of this was what he wanted for Mia. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the boardroom buzzed with tension, the stakes grew exponentially. Could he trust Nathan, the affluent CEO, or would his ambition blind them both? The choice loomed heavier. Aligning with worldly success could mean betraying Mia's values, driving a wedge between their fragile bond. As he weighed each possibility, a sudden urgent message broke through his thoughts, demanding his immediate attention. The clock was ticking, the pressure mounting, and Dave was caught at the crossroads of ambition and loyalty, holding his breath as the decision that would define their futures lay just a heartbeat away. Dave stared down at his phone screen. The urgent message illuminated the darkness of his mind. It was from Nathan. The arrangement he had proposed was rapidly accelerating. A corporate inquiry that threatened to unveil hidden truths lurking in the shadows was looming, and they needed a plan, fast. His heart raced not just from the suspense of what was unfolding, but from the weight of responsibility pressing upon his shoulders. He had stepped into a world he never imagined, fraught with danger, deception, and moral complexities. This wasn't just about cleaning floors anymore, it was about navigating intricate loyalties and potential betrayals, both for himself and for Mia. Was he truly equipped for this challenge? Cowardice whispered that he should retreat to the safe confines of his janitorial job. After all, a quiet life with Mia meant no uninvited chaos. Yet as he paced the empty hallway, determination ignited within him. If he could confront dangerous criminals to protect Nathan, surely he could muster the courage to tackle these impending corporate threats. The next morning, as the sun crept over the skyline, Dave arrived early at the office. The atmosphere buzzed with a nervous energy. He found Nathan deep in conversation with legal counsel. The gravity of their predicament was lost on Dave. The law firm had its own Romes who basked in prosperity, and now they were facing the wrath of a lurking scandal. Can we trust anyone? Nathan glanced toward Dave, fear flickering like a candle in his eyes. Look, I may not know this world as well as you, Dave replied, but integrity matters. We need to find someone who hasn't been tainted by this corruption. Nathan's brow furrowed as he considered the implications. We'll need a strategy. Dave took a deep breath. Let us go through everything we know, piece by piece. Start from the beginning. As they analyzed documents filled with murky numbers and veiled accusations, the complexity of corporate machinations revealed itself. It was disorienting. For someone who spent his nights cleaning hallways, interpreting spreadsheets felt like trying to decipher a foreign language. Each revelation unveiled systems designed to mislead and distract. But Dave began to discover something profound within himself. With each fragment of the dossier they dissected, he felt clarity sharpening his resolve. He could correlate trends and recognize inconsistencies in a way that surprised even himself. There was a unique power in understanding the systems that sought to obscure the truth, yet the deeper they delved, the darker it became. Dave stumbled upon a name, a figure tied to the corporate scandal whose connections sent chills down his spine. This was no mere paperwork, it involved powerful stakeholders, potentially criminal actions, and the very essence of the firm they were trying to salvage. As they pushed forward, a pivotal moment approached. Dave found himself facing a decision that threatened to derail everything he had gained: the opportunity to leak information to the press, potentially saving Nathan and himself but at the expense of someone's reputation. The moral lines blurred. How far would he go to protect Mia's future? No, he muttered under his breath, grappling with the weight of his choices. The stakes could not get higher. Would assuming the role of whistleblower-turned-hero compromise the values he held dear? As the tension in the office grew, Dave had but an instant to decide. Nathan hovered on the precipice of trust, relying on him to navigate unknown waters. Would he step into the fray, wielding information like a sword, or would he act with the restraint that defined him as a father? In that moment, as he made his choice, the office door swung open, revealing a silhouette that would change everything. The revelation was imminent, but what it meant for them both was shrouded in uncertainty. Was salvation at hand, or had he just sealed their fates? The figure in the doorway stepped forward, revealing a woman with steely eyes and a confidence that seemed to fill the room. Dave's heart skipped a beat. She was someone he recognized from news reports, a high-powered executive, known for unflinching negotiations and a resolve that could bend steel. Michelle Quinn. Seeing her here, amidst the brewing tension, sent shockwaves through his already frayed nerves. Gentlemen, she began, her tone commanding yet surprisingly direct. We need to talk. The clock is ticking, and an inquiry is coming. I know you've both stumbled onto something much larger than you realize. Intrigued but skeptical, Dave exchanged a glance with Nathan. Was this a stroke of luck or a deliberate move to manipulate them? As doubts clouded his judgment, Dave sensed the warmth of his convictions flickering in the face of such corporate firepower. Do you have a plan? Nathan asked, leaning forward with uncharacteristic tenacity. Yes, but it requires discretion and trust, which will not come easily, Michelle replied, her expression revealing nothing. Data leaks can destroy reputations, but they can also be weaponized strategically. What I'm proposing is a counteroffensive. Dave's mind raced. Here was an opportunity that could either fortify his resolve or test it more than he had ever anticipated. He had come into this world with the desire to protect and serve, not to plunge headfirst into a game of corporate chess. Could he truly navigate such treacherous waters? Counteroffensive? How? He inquired hesitantly, the initial spark of intrigue battling his instinct to tread carefully. Michelle's voice dropped, gauging their responses. We need materials and evidence on those playing both sides. You stumbled upon connections, didn't you? Dave hesitated. Sharing what he discovered could place him and Mia in even greater danger. That information could hurt people, important people, Dave finally responded, grappling with the weight of the moral implications. Important people? She echoed, her eyes narrowing, or corrupt ones? We need to take down the rot before it spreads. You want to protect Mia, don't you? This isn't about doing the right thing, it's about survival. In that moment, Dave's internal compass swung wildly. Survival, yes, but at what cost? The stakes were higher than ever. He thought about Mia, her bright smile, the warmth of their home, and all he wanted to secure for her future. How could he balance being a good father with the person he was about to become? What do you want from us? Nathan pressed. I want an ally on the inside, Michelle replied, seriousness etched in every line of her face. Someone who understands the common man while being entrenched in corporate reality. You, Dave. The sudden inclusion of his name felt surreal. Could he step up in such a critical role? He wrestled with the unknown terrain before him. Navigating deceitful actions, corporate espionage, and potentially ruining lives. This was not the janitor's life he had envisioned. But buried within was a flicker of resolve pushing him forward. I need time to think, Dave exclaimed, grasping for clarity amid the whirlwind of chaos. Time is not a luxury we have, Michelle replied, the urgency resonating through her voice. You have until the end of the day. With that ultimatum hanging in the air like a tattered banner, Dave felt the weight of the choice crash down upon him, an avalanche of responsibility. Would he take the plunge, risking it all for justice? Or retreat into the safety of mundanity, shielding himself and Mia from an unforgiving world? As he stood there, the room felt smaller, the walls closing in on him. He could feel the clock ticking down to a decision that could forge a new path or seal his fate. The real question was, could he trust himself to make the right choice? As he stepped out into the hallway, the shadows that loomed close whispered dark possibilities. This was only the beginning. The world outside felt impossibly daunting as Dave stumbled into the dimly lit corridor, the scent of polished floors and stale coffee clinging to him like a second skin. With Michelle's ultimatum still echoing in his ears, a fierce internal struggle began to unfold. Could the flicker of resolve inside him ignite into a flame powerful enough to burn through the haze of uncertainty? He walked mechanically, his mind racing through potential outcomes. What was it that kept him grounded? He thought of Mia, her laughter, the innocent way she saw the world, void of the shadows of greed and corruption that stretched before him now. Each step he took felt like an erosion of the life he knew, but threaded with a treacherous allure to step deeper into the abyss for her sake. Finding a small break room, Dave shut the door behind him as if it would shield him from the weight of the choices ahead. Leaning against the counter, he closed his eyes, breathing deeply, imagining Mia's face. He desperately wanted to protect her, but did he have what it takes to confront the beasts lurking within those corporate halls? His thoughts drifted to the pieces of information he had come across, whispers of deceit, transactions cloaked in shadows. He thought about his role in a counteroffensive strategy, glancing at the reflection of himself in the stainless steel kettle across the room. The man staring back seemed bewildered, trapped in a world not his own. Yet deep within, he recognized something stirring, a longing to rise above the menial expectations others had for him. Could he harness that determination to navigate a world he didn't belong to? The idea of entering an enemy encampment, learning to bide his time, was not comforting, but it was exhilarating. Dave took a breath, contemplating the discovery that he had capabilities beyond cleaning floors. He had the ability to gather intel, to connect dots that others overlooked. Suddenly, the clarity crashed over him like a wave. He'd spent years dismissing his own potential, shackled by the belief that his role was limited to janitorial work alone. But if he could uncover the rot Michelle spoke of, just to protect the one person who mattered most, maybe it was worth risking everything. The clarity transitioned into decision. It was time to act, not out of fear, but from a newfound sense of purpose. Dave stood upright, the tension in his shoulders relaxing as he felt a rush of adrenaline pulse through his veins. He embraced this opportunity to transform, starting with reaching out to Nathan, his ally in what lay ahead. Together, they could make this leap into uncertainty and uncover the truth behind the shadows. As he stepped out of the break room, his legs felt lighter, charged with the thrill of impending action. Melding determination with duty, Dave sought Nathan, ready to replace uncertainty with purpose. But as he crossed the hallway, a chilling thought materialized in his mind. Was this just the beginning, or were they already too late? The urgency gripped him anew, propelling him forward even faster. What awaited within those walls? If I leap, what depths of darkness would he have to confront head-on? The answers loomed ahead, shrouded in uncertainty, and the countdown to his next decision ticked on, relentlessly. Would he have the grit needed to face the challenges ahead? Dave's heart raced as he navigated through the corridor, his mind a whirlwind of possibilities. Nathan was more than just a coworker, he was an ally who had never judged or underestimated him. The thought of confiding in Nathan brought a sense of relief mixed with anxiety. What if sharing his newfound intentions made him appear foolish or reckless? But wasn't he the risk part of this transformation he yearned for? With purpose edging out fear, he approached Nathan's office, his hands sweaty against the door handle. A soft, repetitive tapping from within indicated Nathan was engrossed in his work. Just a moment's pause sent doubt piercing through Dave's resolve. Was this the right decision? He squashed down the nagging thought, shaking his head as if to clear it, and pushed the door open. Nathan looked up, surprise evident in his expression. Dave? What is going on? Can we talk? It's important, Dave replied, his voice bordering on urgency. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He could feel the atmosphere shift, the weight of their usual banter replaced by something profound and charged. What's on your mind? Nathan leaned back in his chair, his curiosity piqued. For a fleeting moment, Dave hesitated. The enormity of what he was about to divulge felt like a tightrope walk, balanced precariously over an abyss of unknowns. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the intention that fueled this moment, the desire to protect Mia, to emerge worthy of her admiration. I need to uncover some things going on here, he stated, his voice steady. Things that, well, it's bigger than just a janitor's role. We can't let this place destroy families, including mine. Nathan's expression shifted from curiosity to seriousness. What exactly are you talking about? I've heard whispers, things I wasn't supposed to notice. There are deals being made, people acting shadier than they should. If we don't intervene, it could ruin everything, even for the people who seem untouchable. A heavy silence fell in the room, the weight of Dave's words hanging in the air, thick and palpable. He watched Nathan digest the information, his brow furrowing in thought. I've seen some irregularities, Nathan finally admitted. It's all been easy to dismiss until now. You might be onto something. Then let us investigate. Together, Dave urged, the excitement of a shared purpose igniting the air between them. I admire your boldness, but we need to be careful. This isn't just a game, we could be putting ourselves in danger, Nathan cautioned, a hint of concern creeping into his voice. I understand, Dave countered, his determination peeling back layers of fear. But to stay silent is to accept complicity. I want to let Mia down. Let us rally this resolve and tap into what we've got. Use the very shadows they want to hide in against them. The room filled with the weight of unspoken fears and exhilarating promises. This was a pivotal moment, the kind of decision that could alter the course of their lives. Both men understood that the path ahead was fraught with peril, yet the drive to protect loved ones and reclaim their narrative elevated their resolve. With action crystallized in their minds, they exchanged strategic ideas, rallying the intensity of their conversation to find patterns in the chaos. Each word propelled them deeper into a plan, a partnership steeped in mutual vision and purpose. They were on the verge of an uncharted journey, but little did they know, unseen forces were already at play, ready to challenge their resolve. Just outside, an ominous figure lingered, observing the pair with intent that was anything but benign. As Dave walked out of the office, adrenaline coursing through him, an unshakable sense of urgency followed. Were they already being watched? How far-reaching were the tendrils of corruption? The echoes of their decisions were just beginning, and Dave knew he had to face whatever awaited them head-on. Would this newfound alliance be strong enough to withstand the encroaching darkness? As Dave walked briskly back to his workspace, the weight of his newfound resolve pressed on his chest like an unyielding vice. The corridors of the office building, once merely pathways to his humble janitorial tasks, now felt like a maze filled with hidden corridors of power and secrecy. Every step echoed with the awareness that change was not just desired, it was imperative. He returned to the custodian closet, the smell of disinfectant filling his lungs. This had always been a sanctuary of sorts, a place where he could center his thoughts amidst the chaos of daily duties. Today, however, it buzzed with latent energy, fueled by the audacity of his plan. He gripped the handle of his mop with renewed purpose, envisioning it not merely as a tool for cleaning, but as a weapon against the darkness he was about to confront. Yet, as anticipation danced in his chest, doubt crept in. What qualifications did he really have to take on such a mission? His formal experience was limited to sweeping floors and mopping spills, not risking a confrontation with powerful individuals obscured by their own ambitions. A wave of anxiety washed over him. Did he really think he could make a difference? But then images of Mia flickered through his mind. The way her eyes sparkled with pride whenever he shared even the smallest accomplishment. The thought steeled his resolve. He was more than just a janitor, he was a father willing to fight for his child's future. With this realization, clarity overtook doubt. He had hidden talents waiting to be discovered, an ability to notice details that might slip past others, and a tenacity as strong as steel. Deciding to sharpen his instincts, Dave pulled out a notebook he had tucked away with his mopping supplies. He began jotting down everything he knew, the rumors he heard, the names of the people acting suspiciously, and any anomalies he stumbled upon in his daily interactions. His mind raced, connecting dots in chaotic patterns of information. The pen scratched across the paper, transforming his pent-up energy into strategic insight. The sound of footsteps approached, interrupting his concentration. It was Nathan, stepping into the small custodial space, concern etching his features. "Everything okay? You disappeared pretty quickly." Dave gestured toward his notes. "I'm mapping out what we know. If we're going to dig deeper, we need to be organized to anticipate their moves." Nathan nodded, the seriousness of their mission reflected in his posture. "Good idea. But we should also think about securing evidence. Anything that validates our claims will be crucial. We can't just rely on whispers and speculation." As they collaborated, a palpable synergy ignited between them. Each shared idea spun new strategies, infusing their plans with a boldness that resonated with who they were becoming, men ready to stake their claims in a game rigged against them. However, amidst their productive brainstorming, a shiver of unease slithered along Dave's spine. He glanced toward the door as if sensing a watchful presence lingering just outside. The unease solidified into a chilling reality. They weren't alone in this quest. The ominous figure from earlier now morphed from paranoia into a tangible threat. "Do you think we're being followed?" Dave asked hesitantly, his instincts flaring. "It's possible," Nathan replied, his brow furrowing. "We need to keep what we're doing under wraps while we gather more intel." Dave felt the weight of a hard decision pressing in. Should they not just act in secrecy but also deepen their understanding of this impending danger? Should their next move be to identify their watcher, or should they push harder into their investigation, risking exposure? A plan formed, but with it arose the prospect that either choice could alter the stakes entirely. The feeling of being watched intensified, but so did a determined spark within him, a resolve to uncover the truth at any cost. As they stepped out from the closet, ready to face whatever awaited them, the question loomed larger than their plans: how would they withstand this shadowy adversary that already threatened to dismantle their alliance before it could even begin, they needed to evaluate every risk and chance, for the darkness lurking in those corridors held the keys to far more than they could imagine. Would they be able to navigate this perilous path, or would their resolve falter when faced with the truth? As they stepped into the starkly lit hallway, Dave's mind whirred with the gravity of their mission. The office buzzed like a beehive, oblivious to the brewing storm just beneath its polished surface. He felt both empowered and vulnerable in this strange duality. A determination surged within him while shadows of fear flickered at the edges of his thoughts. "Let us keep our heads down," he whispered to Nathan, the urgency in his tone thickening the air between them. They maneuvered through the throngs of employees with a careful blend of purpose and stealth, occasionally exchanging glances that communicated both resolve and uncertainty. As they reached the elevator, Dave felt a coil of tension in his chest. The presence of their potential adversary loomed just beyond the doors. Would they be able to execute this without exposing themselves? The thought wrestled in Dave's mind. This wasn't just a quest for truth anymore, it was a matter of survival. With a soft ding, the elevator doors slid open. They entered, and Dave pressed the button to the lower levels usually off-limits to everyone but management. This was where the guts of the company pulsed, where the operational secrets lay buried. As they descended, the dull hum of the machinery echoed their spiraling thoughts, filling the small compartment with an intangible weight. "Are you sure about this?" Nathan asked, voice lowered but laced with apprehension. "I can't turn back now, not after everything," Dave replied, the gravity of his conviction anchoring his wavering confidence. He had glimpsed a future woven with threads of victory fueled by courage rather than fear, and he latched onto that vision with both hands. The elevator door opened with an echoing clang, revealing a narrow corridor illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights. As they stepped out, the atmosphere shifted, turning palpably thick, a tangible embodiment of the dangers lurking within. Dave couldn't help but muse on how this space transformed in his eyes. What had once seemed like a place of anonymity now felt riddled with secrets to unearth. Dave recalled snippets of conversations he had overheard, mentions of a new project underway, something big and under wraps. This was the risk-laden gold mine he sought. They crept deeper into the belly of the building, a sense of dire purpose swirling around them, almost as if the air whispered of hidden truths waiting to be revealed. Suddenly, a door swung open up ahead, laughter spilling out into the corridor. The two men instinctively pressed against the wall, heartbeats quickening in their chests. Peering into the room, they stole glances at a gathering of executives discussing figures on a large screen. The charts and graphs illuminated the solemn faces of the men and women before them. This was their opportunity, an entry point to understand the machinations that had long seemed out of reach, but a prickly sense of danger tickled the back of Dave's neck. The man seated at the head of the table, a slick-suited figure with cold, calculating eyes, sent a jolt of recognition through him. This was no ordinary executive, this was the ominous figure whose presence had loomed in his life, one whose shadow had always been nearby as he went about his cleaning tasks. How had Dave not made the connection sooner? A loud thud rang through the air as the door behind them clicked shut, and both men turned sharply, adrenaline firing through every nerve in their bodies. "This is getting way too risky," Nathan muttered, urgency escalating with every second. "I know, but we're so close," Dave replied, drawing in a sharp breath. They had to weigh their next moves carefully. The stakes had risen exponentially. They were delving headfirst into the lioness den, and they knew the danger had escalated from observation to confrontation. As they crouched low, hearts pounding with fear and resolve, a single thought crystallized: they had to choose wisely, or their pursuit for truth could very well lead to their undoing. In that moment of silence before action, he realized something crucial. His transformation was not just in the pursuit of truth, but in his willingness to step into the fray, confront challenges head-on, and protect those who mattered. The point of no return had been reached, and now, facing haunting uncertainties, they teetered on the brink of discovery. But as they prepared to make their move, he couldn't shake a chilling certainty. Danger didn't just haunt the shadows in that room, perhaps their most formidable challenge awaited them. With the oppressive weight of uncertainty pressing ever heavier, would they find what they sought, or had they unwittingly courted the darker elements of a much larger game? The door clicked shut behind them, sealing off the mundane routine of the upper floors, and casting Dave and Nathan into a world filled with tension and the unknown. Each heartbeat seemed to echo throughout the corridor. Dave's mind raced with possibilities, many of them dark. This was not merely a dangerous encounter, it was a crossroads for him. Instinctively, he could feel the stakes rising higher, a vortex spinning around and pulling him deeper into the intrigue. In this hidden underbelly of the corporate facade, the essence of what he truly hoped to achieve now hung like a pendulum, swinging precariously. His quest for the truth wasn't merely for himself anymore. Each whisper of plotted machinations he might unearth could ultimately redefine the very existence he had grown accustomed to. With every calculated breath, he reminded himself of the purpose behind this reckless venture. This was not only an exploration into the shady dealings of the executives, it was about standing for his self-worth. The deep-seated fear that had historically plagued him began to congeal into fierce determination. He realized, right there behind the wall of uncertainty, he was not simply a janitor, he was a catalyst for change. Nathan's cautious movements pulled him back into focus. "What's the plan?" he whispered urgently. The flickering lights danced, casting shadows that flitted across the walls, embodying the uncertainties that seemed to crowd their thoughts. "Let's get closer to that door," Dave replied, feeling an addictive rush envelop him. The confidence growing within him halfway eclipsed the remnants of doubt. They tiptoed closer until they stood at the threshold, unseen. Peering in cautiously, the details of the executive meeting became clearer, the cold, calculating eyes of the suited man, the tension palpable as he discussed strategies that could reshape their entire company. Dave's stomach turned. Every word he heard sent shivers of revelation coursing through him, decisions being made that could devastate lives, including his own. Weeks of silent servitude now felt like a lush tapestry weaving together moments of courage that had gone ignored for too long. The realization hit: if he turned back now, if he remained the passive observer, he would never escape the cycle of fear. "Dave," Nathan's urgent whisper broke through his thoughts. "They're about to wrap up. We can't be seen, we need wait." Dave held a hand up, his thoughts crystallizing into action. He felt a storm of potential rising within him, roaring louder than the anxiety rattling at his core. "I'm going to find out more. There has to be something here we can use." But before he could fully form a plan, the confident swagger of the executive's voice commanded attention in the room. "And once we finalize this project, we can bury anyone who dares question our authority. Corporate politics demand our hands be unclean if the greater good is to be achieved." He spoke with an air of chilling conviction. Dave felt the words vibrate within him, igniting something long buried. Without thinking, he stepped back, urgency gnawing at him. The stakes were too high to ignore, too grave to accept silence. He could not, would not, go back to being invisible as lives were manipulated within these walls. "Listen," he looked at Nathan, resolve crystallizing his tone. "We have to gather evidence. This is bigger than us. We can't just reveal ourselves yet. We need to understand how deep the rabbit hole goes." Nathan hesitated but nodded, reluctantly accepting the gravity of their situation. Together, they positioned themselves against the wall, ready to listen, to learn. But as Dave focused on the meeting, an unsettling chill wormed its way into his consciousness, a realization that the man leading was not only a threat, but someone who approached danger with calculated precision. Just as their attention sharpened, the door swung open with a jolt. Heart racing, Dave caught a glimpse of those cold eyes meeting his. It was now or never. He had to decide whether to confront his fears, or fade back into obscurity forever. Could he muster the audacity to pivot his fear into strength? As the very perception of himself threatened to fracture beneath the weight of his revelation, he stood poised at the precipice of change, adrenaline coursing through him with surging intensity. This was a defining moment, where naivete might turn to defiance, all hinging on the next breath he took. Dave's thoughts spiraled into a singular focus. The moment of truth was at hand, and what emerged could very well shape not only his future but the course of the lives tangled in corporate deception. Would he grasp at this opportunity, or allow the darkness of fear to snuff out his fledgling empowerment? The adrenaline surged as the door creaked open, and for an instant, Dave was frozen by the eyes of the executive, piercing and unyielding. In that heartbeat, a choice crystallized before him: engage or retreat. He could feel Nathan's apprehension vibrating in the space between them, but a fire had ignited within him fueled by frustrations bottled for years. He could no longer back down. Ducking further into the shadows, he motioned to Nathan, weaving a silent tapestry of determination between them. They had to stay vigilant while their instincts screamed to bolt straight into the flurry of corporate manipulation. Stamina and strategy became urgent allies, but they needed more than just stealth, they needed an actionable plan. As the meeting inside resumed, Dave strained to hear the veiled threats cascading through the air. The executives discussed a business reconfiguration, a euphemism that hinted at layoffs and brutal restructuring. The revelation twisted in his gut, the personal stakes rising higher than he anticipated. He wasn't merely witnessing malice from the sidelines, it was a visceral connection to potential loss that pressed against his chest. This engulfing fear transformed into something richer, a desire to protect each and every person at risk, including himself. "Tell me we're heading to the archives after this," Nathan urged, his voice tinged with urgency. "We need all the ammo we can find." "Not yet," Dave replied, his voice low and firm. "We need proof of intent. We can't act until we know exactly what they're planning." The discussions inside ebbed and flowed, and Dave felt his resolve hardening with every accusation and every veiled power play expressed in hushed tones. This wasn't just about those lives in limbo, it was about crafting his own narrative, channeling his trajectory from janitor to watchdog, from invisibility to impactful force. Suddenly, the executive laughed, a chilling sound that sliced through the thrum of anxiety. "If anyone in this company thinks they can challenge our methods, they'll regret it. We are the gatekeepers of success," he declared with malevolence. Dave's heart raced, the condescension of the elite stirred fury within him. The gap between their comfortable lives and the paeans they overlooked was an insurmountable abyss, and he wasn't going to be another casualty of their indifference. The dual layers of his discovery were overwhelming. The realization of his worth clashed violently with the sinister world of high-stakes corporate greed. "What are you thinking?" Nathan whispered, breaking through Dave's mental haze. In that moment, Dave embraced the full impact of his growth. He wasn't merely a bystander lingering in the shadows, he was the protagonist of his own evolving story. "I'm going to record everything. We can leak it to the media, force their hand before they can enact anything," he said, newfound conviction ringing in his voice. Nathan's jaw dropped. "That's risky." "Or necessary," Dave insisted. "I refuse to go back to my role as the invisible man. We need to act and make this count, for all of us." Carefully, with a steady hand, Dave produced his phone. The executives remained unaware of the storm brewing right outside their door, a storm that could wreck their carefully crafted facade. As he pressed the record button, a sense of calm washed over him, dissolving remnants of self-doubt. He was a part of this fight now, weaving his narrative into the very heart of the battle, but the moment he leaned in to capture the words falling from those very lips, a commotion erupted. A loud crash echoed through the halls, throwing Dave's focus into a frenzy. The door reopened and figures rushed out, their voices chaotic as they dealt with the unexpected intrusion. Instinct kicked in with dizzying speed. "We have to go," Nathan shouted. "No." Dave stayed rooted, eyes wide. Time hung suspended as he faced a choice that could mean everything: run and retreat to confidentiality, or remain steadfast and challenge the convocation of deceit with unwavering resolve. His heart raced in tandem with the pulse of transformation within him, and as pressures mounted, so too did his determination. The next few minutes could irrevocably alter the course of his life. Would he seize control, or would he be swept away in the cyclone of corporate treachery? The blaring chaos only intensified the question burning in his mind: in the realm of the powerful, who was really in control? Dave stood steadfast, the sounds of chaos swirling around him, yet he felt remarkably composed. Moments before, he grappled with self-doubt, but now clarity surged through him like electricity. The havoc unfolding in the corridor galvanized his resolve. No longer was he merely a janitor cleaning up after the mess made in corporate boardrooms, he was part of something larger. "Dave, we need to go." Nathan's urgency shattered the spell of empowerment momentarily, but Dave shook his head. "Listen, Nathan. This is our chance. We uncover their plans, expose the corruption, and protect our futures. Think of Mia and the countless others affected by this greed. I can't walk away now." The chaos stabilized around him, time stretching as each decision weighed heavily on his conscience. He couldn't retreat into the shadows, instead, he had to confront the stark reality of what lay ahead. Yet, he couldn't act carelessly. He needed evidence, solid proof to lay bare their treachery. "Fine," Nathan agreed, his expression matching Dave's determination. "But let us be smart about it." As the executives bustled out, their frantic discussions punctuating the air with urgency, Dave took a calculated step back, melding into the shadows, blending into the very walls he had once merely cleaned. He felt an exhilarating rush course through him, the realization that he possessed more than the average janitor's insight. They waited, listening intently as snippets of conversations blended into the atmosphere, dismantle and reallocate, finalize the buyout. No one will see it coming, tighten the grip on their shares. Each revelation cemented Dave's resolve. This was more than just corporate jargon, it was a roadmap laced with potential destruction. As the executives shifted their discussions to future projections, Dave quietly activated his phone, the recording icon glowing ominously in the dimness of the hallway. His instincts kicked into high gear, his focus narrowing down to the specifics. With each wallowing fear of what might happen if they were discovered, he forged ahead, embracing a risk he had previously shunned. His personal battles with insecurity melted away, eclipsed by a fervor to rise above, armed now not just with the scraps of knowledge acquired from years of servitude, but with a recognition of his intrinsic worth and purpose. As doors swung open and closed, executives filed into rooms, their laughter carrying bitter amusement tinged with overconfidence. They underestimated him, their janitor, their invisible help. But he had transformed into a force propelled by a mission that stretched far beyond the corporate climbs. He was the defender of his daughter's future, the guardian of integrity. With urgency revitalizing his every move, he leaned toward Nathan, whose expression mirrored Dave's newfound vigor. "When it's clear, we slip in and grab whatever we can, records, emails, anything. We'll build a case that exposes them." Nathan nodded, impassioned yet cautious. "Then we'll leak it to the media. Public outcry could force their hands." "Yes," Dave replied, feeling the weight of their impending action pulse through him. "Together we're stronger. This is it." As they maneuvered carefully deeper into the building, the realization crystallized: the journey had significantly changed him. The timid janitor had emerged as a determined player in a high-stakes game, refusing to only clean the fallout while the powerful dictated the terms. When they finally found their entry into the systems room, technology whirring, papers scattered, Dave forged ahead. He began accessibly navigating through files and records, each click echoing his transformation fueled by hope and righteousness. They had arrived at a pivotal point of achievement, a tangible synthesis of courage and invention, locking the door behind the era of anonymity. The time spent in the shadows became a gilded testament to growth and sheer perseverance. So as he glanced at Nathan, both men shared unspoken recognition: their divergent paths had converged toward a singular goal. They had each found their footing in uncharted territory, swapping the fear of exposure for the exhilarating possibility of justice. Finally, with snippets of knowledge unearthed and verifiable proof in their possession, they stepped back into the light where consequences and choices awaited them, liberated from the weight that had once shackled their ambitions. They would not be mere silent observers anymore. They were warriors in defense of truth, ready to confront any challenge that dared obstruct their quest. That day marked a moment when the janitor became a guardian, the voice for those overlooked, as he held the reins to orchestrate the changes that would inevitably follow. The transformation had cultivated in him a newfound confidence, an unshakable presence capable of confronting even the most formidable corporate adversaries. Dave emerged that day not just as a protector for his daughter, but as a beacon of integrity standing tall against moral decay. Now he had to act and bring the truth to light. It was time to take the fight beyond these walls and reclaim the narrative. The stakes had never been higher, and the world was watching. And as he faced the horizon, steeling his resolve, one thing was painfully clear: this was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible stories of personal transformation and triumph. This is the moment to show your support. Hit like to fuel the algorithm and keep this essential content in circulation. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending below. Your insights matter. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of individual overcoming stories.